You ready? Okay. Committee will come to order. Thank all of you for being here. And to all of you who played baseball, congratulations. You made us all proud. Some great catches, some great hits. I didn't know some of you could run at all, let alone, actually hobble around the bases. Pretty good stuff. And believe me, you look a hell of a lot better than the Knicks look right now. So, now we've got one over there, but I don't want to discriminate against our friends. If you want to see one over here, I guess we have to have one. I don't know. Does that matter?
Yeah, keep it going.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep the game going. I chose that side because it's easier for me. Oklahoma City. So, yeah, we didn't quite make it. So now I just want it to go as long as it can, and it looks like it's good. I mean, each of them win two at the other guy's home. Pretty cool. But tonight, I would not want to be a Knick. Looks pretty tough tonight. With that, we'll go right back into the amendments. Gentlelady from Texas, because the next up is not here yet, and he'll be here shortly. So, gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Escobar, is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Many of you might know, because I've talked about it before.
Would the gentlelady like the amendment read?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I would like the amendment to be read into the record,
Okay,
please.
that's fine.
Amendment offered by Ms. Escobar in the bill. None of the funds made available by this act or any other act, including prior acts and laws other than appropriations acts, shall be used to design, construct, or operate immigration detention facilities located on a military installation, or to enter into any agreement to establish or provide for such a facility on a military installation.
Gentlelady is recognized to explain her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many of you, or some of you, might have heard me talk about the fantastic military installation that I'm so proud to represent, Fort Bliss, home of the 1st Armored Division, home to at least 17,000 soldiers who live on base in a very veteran-friendly, veteran-supportive community. And when the One Big Beautiful Bill was passed last year, one of the things that it contained was $45 billion for new immigration detention facilities. And because the administration wanted to very quickly put up more immigration detention facilities, they felt the easiest place to do that would be a military installation and use military contractors. Now, mind you, the United States of America already has the most number of military detention facilities, more than any other nation on the planet. But that extraordinary number is not enough for the Trump mass deportation plan, which is why they wanted to build more immigration detention facilities. The facility on Fort Bliss is a $1.3 billion facility. $1.3 billion. It is a tent city. It is a tent city intended to house 5,000 people. When the announcement was made that DHS was going to be working with Fort Bliss to build a tent city to house immigrants, I immediately feared the worst, and my worst fears have been realized. And I will tell you, I do not support using our military facilities for immigration detention, regardless of who is president. I don't care if it's a Democratic president. I don't care if it's a Republican president. I believe our military installations should focus on their mission. My concerns, should this detention facility be built at Fort Bliss, I had concerns about readiness, I had concerns about security, and I had a multitude of other concerns. Well, the Army issued a no-bid contract using their World Expeditionary Multiple Award Contract capability known as WEXMAX, and they hired a private contractor who had never done this work before. For months, I have been sounding the alarm about what's happened inside that facility. I have visited that facility multiple times. I've spoken to detainees inside that facility. We've spoken with whistleblowers who work inside that facility, families who visited their loved ones inside that facility, and I've sounded the alarm about a number of horrific issues. Well, yesterday, the GAO released its report affirming many of the things that I've been sounding the alarm about. And frankly, this is the tip of the iceberg. But let me give you a couple of examples of what's in the report. The report details tens of millions of dollars in waste for food that was paid for with this private contractor that they didn't need because for the first 2 weeks they had no inmates. But because the Army did the contracting, the Army doesn't do immigration detention. This was the contract. And so a private contractor made off with tens of millions of dollars for food for detainees that were not being held in the facility. Another detail in this report is that they discovered there was one person who escaped from the facility. This is on a military installation. I actually know for a fact that 3 people escaped. This is on a military installation. One of the private security guards who works for the private company lost his loaded gun. This is in the GAO report. That loaded gun has still not been found. This is on a military installation. There was a homicide inside that detention facility. And that homicide, what the GAO report discovered was that evidence was disposed of and missing. So I'm here to ask this committee to please help me put a stop to immigration detention facilities going on military installations. That should never have happened. This report gives only a handful of examples of why that shouldn't happen, and my amendment, Mr. Chairman, would ensure that doesn't happen again. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amadei, is recognized to respond to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition to Mrs. Escobar's amendment before us. Illegal immigration is a defense and national security concern completely appropriate for military installations to play a part in providing infrastructure support for our immigration enforcement priorities on a case-by-case basis. I understand there are concerns about Camp West. I understand there are concerns about Fort Bliss. That doesn't mean that we basically paint with the broadest brush possible and say this is not an option anywhere else in the country. Military installations can have the space, security, and resources needed to support temporary detention operations when additional capacity is required. It's interesting, I've heard quite a bit throughout the day about how my colleagues have concerns with immigration detention in private for-profit prisons. Well, military installations are quite the opposite of these private for-profit facilities, and yet we have concerns about detainees here too. In fact, I've also heard at various times that they're concerned about housing ICE detainees at recently purchased ICE-owned facilities, warehouses. I'm starting to wonder, on the other hand, if on the other side of the dais we have a problem with where immigration detention is located or just immigration detention as a whole. It seems to be the latter, in my opinion, at least in this instance. Instead of limiting law enforcement, we should ensure they have the tools necessary to carry out the law and support surge detention infrastructure. Using available federal lands and infrastructure for immigration detention is both good for the taxpayers, it is good for the security of the people being detained, and it was a tool that the previous administration had and used when they thought was appropriate. Let's make common sense decisions and support a good government. I urge your no vote on the amendment.
Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Supportive of the gentlelady's amendment that will prohibit the use of military installations for immigration detention. I know that ICE has gotten a lot of money, and Mr. Chairman, I'm one of those that I support ICE detentions, but they gotta have that oversight and making sure that we take care of the folks there. But this one is a little different. I signed a $1.2 billion contract to operate Camp East Montana, in which they ended up, as the gentlewoman from El Paso said, and they had a lot of problems. I'm not going to repeat those problems, but they had a lot of problems. But the key point that I want to mention here is that in 2014, when President Obama was dealing with this first flow, one of the first flows of people coming across the border, former President Obama used military bases to house folks. That included Joint Base San Antonio, Lackland, in my particular area, and, Mr. Chairman, I think you're familiar with Fort Steele in Oklahoma. And a lot of us said, we don't like this. We don't like this. The military is supposed to be doing what they're supposed to do. Now ICE has billions of dollars to do their detention centers. You can look at Geo Group, you can look at Core Civic, you can look at the other ones. They got the spaces. Why do we need to go on a military base? Again, what we said in 2014, a lot of us in this room said, no, none of that. So does it really matter who the president is? I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat president. Military bases should not be used for ICE detentions, and we ought to find other places. So because of that, I'm asking you to join our colleague from El Paso, support this amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, gentlemen. There are other members wishing to address the amendment.
Mr. Chairman,
Gentleman from California.
I just wanted to make a point that under the Department of Defense ruling that was made in the beginning of the Trump administration, hundreds of miles of the border along the Mexican-U.S. border is now considered a military installation. That was done to get outside of the Posse Comitatus rules in order to put active military troops along the border. The way that the amendment is written, those troops would have to be removed from service along the border. So I would move to defeat that amendment. Thank you.
Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized.
For a question? If I understood what you said right, the military base is being used. The Department of Homeland Security issued contracts for a private facility to be running it. So the Department of Defense is not running the facility, and nor do we want them to be, because they have other things going on. But no one from the Department of Homeland Security is running the detention centers. Okay, well, would you maybe, Mr. Chair, can I yield a little more time? Because I think this is an important thing, is
Gentlelady
what's happening
controls
with
the
the.
time. She certainly can yield.
Thank you. To understand what's going on with the contracting that's going on and how there's no oversight on it.
And to the defense chairman, this amendment is written to prohibit DHS from essentially building immigration detention on a military installation. So it would not require removal. It doesn't impact the use of troops on that extended NDA at all. This is only about immigration detention facilities. And the gentlelady is correct. While the Department of the Army is not running the private, or not running the immigration detention facility, neither is ICE. It is a private corporation that the Army has on the military installation because ICE needed more detention space because of, the desire to exponentially grow our immigration detention capacity. We are essentially allowing private contractors to go on the military installation to run this immigration detention facility. We've already seen a private contractor lose a loaded gun. A private contractor killed a detainee, and all of this is happening on our military installation. I believe we should protect our military installations from private contractors like this. There's been little to no accountability. I had to engage the help of Mr. Amadei to get a copy of the contract with the private contractor, and it took months for us to get it. And even when we did get it, they only gave us a draft. Furthermore, there's been an effort to evade even more accountability and oversight. So I mentioned the homicide that took place inside of Camp East, Montana, which is on Fort Bliss, which is run by a private contractor. It was the El Paso County Medical Examiner who determined that that death, there have been multiple deaths at that facility, but it was the El Paso County Medical Examiner who told the public this is a homicide. So what did the private contractor do after that? We're going to use the military medical examiner instead. And it's a way to evade our oversight and any accountability. If the Department of Homeland Security and if Congress gives them the power to do what they want to do, which is build, gajillion more square feet of immigration detention, this amendment doesn't stop them from doing it. This amendment says you won't do it on a military installation. We have to stand with our military leaders. They're not going to tell you publicly or outright. But I think if you ask them how they feel about this, they don't like it. And I didn't support it when President Biden did it. And in fact, I was very vocally opposed to President Biden using Fort Bliss for child detention. The military needs to be separate and kept separated from immigration detention, and our military installations should not be used for these purposes. I thank the gentlelady.
I yield back a few seconds.
Thank the gentlelady. Gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I ask the gentlelady a question as well? I can recall when we were dealing with unaccompanied children and dealing with military installations. Do you know whether or not that it would be ICE, or in this instance ICE, is there a payment to the military for the use of the facility, as well as the contract that gets paid for to the private company, so that we're paying, Department of Defense, if you will.
Gentlelady, you, because I can answer your question.
Yes, so please say.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive actually to put them on a military base.
So that we're
There is a
paying.
payment from the military, or from DHS to
Right.
the military.
We pay DHS to the military, and then DHS to the private contractor. Now, that is in my recollection from when we were dealing with the unaccompanied kids. We're talking about millions and millions of dollars. The contracts are, they're frankly obscene, in the amount of money, with little or no ability to deal with oversight. But so we're paying twice in that regard. So it's
And in this case, it's a tent city.
Right.
And it's $1.3 billion.
dollars in the contract.
Very little accountability, blocked oversight, and frankly, very nebulous operations outside of the purview of Congress.
Right, and we do not know then what we are paying DOD. We don't know what the amount that DHS is paying to DOD for the use of that space. Okay. Thank you. I thank you.
Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to again say I opposed the Obama administration using Fort Bliss for unaccompanied minors. And I badgered the administration until they finally tore down the tent city that was housing unaccompanied minors. I do not believe our military installations should be used in this way. I think we have an obligation to keep that separate. This amendment does not impact anything else, doesn't impact what the president is doing right now with using troops on the border. It doesn't impact anything except to say, DHS, if you want to build more immigration detention, find someplace other than a military installation. Let our military leaders focus on their job and let DHS find other locations and not use our installations. Thank you. I urge a yes vote. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Texas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Opinion, the noes have it. The gentlelady's requested a roll call vote. Sufficient support has been demonstrated. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amade. No. Mr. Amade, no. Mrs. Bice. Mrs. Bice, no. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case. Mr. Siscomani. Mr. Siscomani, no. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud, no. Mr. Clyburn. Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, no. Mr. Cole.
No.
Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar.
Aye.
Mr. Cuellar, aye. Ms. Dean. Ms. DeLauro. Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, no. Mr. Elzey. Mr. Elzey, no. Ms. Escobar. Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, aye. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, no. Ms. Frankel. Ms. Frankel, aye. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, no. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Hinson. Mrs. Hinson, no. Mr. Hoyer.
Aye.
Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy. Mr. Ivy, aye. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Captor. Ms. Captor, aye. Mr. Lalota. Mr. Lalota, no. Ms. Lee. Ms. Letlow. Mr. Levin. Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy. Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCullum. Ms. McCullum, aye. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, no. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse. Mr. Newhouse, no. Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Pingree. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Reschenthaler. Mr. Reschenthaler, no. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Shreve. Mr. Shreve, no. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong, no. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, aye. Miss Underwood. Miss Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo. Mr. Valadeo, no. Miss Wasserman Schultz. Miss Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mrs. Watson Coleman. Mrs. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Zinke. Mr. Zinke, no.
Are there members wishing to vote or change their vote? Gentlelady from Pennsylvania.
Ms. Dean, aye.
Gentlelady from Nevada.
Ms. Lee, aye.
Are there others wishing to vote or change their vote? Seeing none, the clerk will tally.
I saw the language, it addresses this issue. I said, I saw your language, it addresses what he brought up. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
On this vote, the ayes are 26, the noes are 34. The amendment is not adopted. Gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Escobar, is recognized for the purpose of amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk and would like the language to be read into the record, please.
Read into the record? Yeah, the clerk will read the amendment, please.
An amendment offered by Ms. Escobar in the bill, no funds made available through this act or any other act shall be used to support federal, state, or local efforts that seek to use the power of eminent domain to construct pedestrian fending for Monte Cristo Rey in Sunland Park, New Mexico.
The gentlelady is recognized to explain her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This amendment is very similar to the amendment that was brought forward by the ranking member earlier in this markup. The Department of Homeland Security is suing the Catholic Church in my region, my neighboring community of Las Cruces, New Mexico, and they are suing the Catholic Church in order to eminent domain what is considered a very sacred site for Catholics in the region. Mount Cristo Rey is a mountain that is adjacent to my community. It's actually in Representative Gabe Vasquez's district. At its peak, there is a 29-foot statue of Jesus Christ that was dedicated in 1939, and over the years, Mount Cristo Rey has become an annual pilgrimage destination that is visited by over 40,000 Americans every year. The faithful from Texas, New Mexico, the state of Chihuahua participate in pilgrimages on Good Friday and in the spring and on the Feast of Christ the King, or Cristo Rey, in the fall. There is hiking that happens there, not just during religious holidays, but there is hiking that happens there throughout the year. This has really touched a nerve in our region. El Paso and Las Cruces, a very Mexican Catholic region, and the idea that the Department of Homeland Security wants to essentially tear away at that mountain to build a wall. Obviously, many of our faithful are deeply concerned that they will no longer be able to make their pilgrimages, but it is also seen as a desecration of a sacred site. I ask for your support in telling the Department of Homeland Security to please not do this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amade, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition to the amendment at the desk. Earlier this year, CPB initiated an eminent domain process for property owned by the Catholic Diocese of New Mexico to build border wall in the area close to the Mount Cristo Rey Shrine. Interestingly enough, the border wall project was awarded in September of 2024 under the Biden administration as part of the gap closure plan. Yes, my friend from El Paso wants to prevent wall construction authorized by the Biden administration. I'm not painting her with a brush on what, but it's like, hey, this project has spanned 2 generations. Thank you for the comment, and if you would like me to cede you some time, I'd be happy to. Construction activities and completion of the border wall in this area will not impact access to the Mount Cristo Rey Shrine. It's about 1,480 feet from there. Is it in the view shed? Absolutely, it's in the view shed. But that's the way it's been going. It doesn't impact the operation of the shrine. The pilgrimage route access points remain unchanged. I've circulated some pictures so you can see just how far away the shrine is from the wall, 1,400 feet, almost 4 football fields. People who attend events at the shrine already have to lawfully enter the border through a port of entry consistent with current law. And it's well known that the cartels have exploited religious pilgrimages to conduct illegal activities like narcotics and human smuggling. When the Biden administration sought to close the gap here, no one can accuse them of being border security hawks. Again, I appreciate the gentlelady from El Paso's amendment, but I must urge my colleagues to vote against this so that we can close this gap in the wall. I urge your no vote.
Thank you, gentlemen. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm supportive of the gentlelady's amendment that would protect the Catholic site on the U.S.-Mexico border near Mount Cristo Rey. We know how this vote is going to happen, but I just have to really say this. As a Catholic, as looking at exceptions that we just can't even recognize the exceptions for us that live along the border. Now, I know some of y'all say, well, you know, I went down to the border for 1 hour or 2 hours and I know the border. Some of us live there and we've lived there all our lives. And we understand the border better than folks that just go there for 1 hour or 2 hours and say they know the border better. Look, what we're talking about is about, well, less than 1% of the U.S. border, if you look at 2,000 miles from California down to Brownsville, or 1,200 miles. Less than 1%. It's like getting a postage stamp in the middle of a football field and say, protect that area. If we can't even protect that little area that we're talking about and we're going to disregard homes, cemeteries, religious sites like this, and say that Border Patrol, and I support Border Patrol, but if they can't control that through drones, technology, everything that we have out there, we can't control that. Look, Mr. Chairman, without due respect, I've seen what Border Patrol has said. I've seen that. And again, I said that, and I heard that in 2019, and we were able to add those exceptions. Talking about photos also, you know, I was sorry about bringing Big Ben again, but we're interested in Big Ben. We looked at God's walls here, and we still said no to that. I mean, what are we going to do if that doesn't protect people from coming across, or you don't want to respect somebody's religious background on this, and Border Patrol can't do this because they have to have a border wall? It's just wrong. I know how this is going to come about, but I'm hoping, Mr. Chairman, that this is a process like we did in 2019. And as we move down the process, we can take Laredo, Zapata, Big Ben, God's walls in consideration, and this religious site in consideration. I know how this vote is going to happen, but all I ask you is, please, as we move forward in the process at the end, don't let somebody else make that decision. Let us make this decision as members of the Appropriations. Don't let OMB or somebody else decide this for us. Let's sit down as appropriators and find a way to really respect the border communities. And that's all I'm asking as we go down the process. So again, if you haven't been to Big Ben, stop by, or if you haven't been to Laredo, stop by. Food is pretty good. Go Spurs also. But again, what we have to make sure is just take some of us in consideration. If I was talking about the northern border, I would say that's different. That's a different thing. I'm not going to say what's good for you in the northern border. This is a southern border, and we live here, and we just ask you to just, as we go through the process, consider us. With that, I ask you to consider this amendment, supporting this amendment. Let the process move forward, and hopefully at the end of not the day, but at the end of the process, we will work together as appropriators. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Pennsylvania is recognized to address the amendment.
Rise in just brief support for the gentlelady's amendment. You don't have to be Catholic. You don't have to be a person of faith to understand that this is just a wall too far. Remember, years and years ago, this was about a set of walls that was going to be paid for by Mexico. Remember that? And they were never going to be effective anyway. That photograph you just showed, and I have looked through and scrolled through, I'm among, Mr. Ranking Member, I am among those who have spent an hour or two. So with all humility, I remind all of us that this makes no sense whatsoever, that we would desecrate this holy space, this space that means a lot to a lot of people, not just Catholics, I happen to be a Catholic, but people of faith, people who understand the power of the land and those walls that are much more important, those natural walls and barriers that are much more important than any man-made wall that this president hopes to erect. So please, come on, we don't have to fall for this nonsense. We don't have to say, yes, because this president wants it, we're going to go for it. This is a wall that would not make any sense. It will not change the outcome of immigration in this country, and it would change the outcome and the ecosystem and the beauty of the nature of our area and our space. So let's stand with this area of our country. Let's stand with these people of faith, and let's support this amendment. We don't have to cave. I yield.
Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
I am so grateful for my colleagues who rose in support of my region. And I'd like to echo what our ranking member said. Those of us who live in our communities really do know our communities best. I have said this before as well. I am a third-generation border resident, born and raised on the U.S.-Mexico border. My kids, fourth generation. No one wants a safe and secure border more than those of us who live there. And what this amendment asks is that DHS respect the community, respect the Catholic Church, the property of the Catholic Church, respect a place that draws pilgrims from all over the country, a place of natural beauty, and preserve it instead of desecrate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Texas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it, and the amendment is not adopted. Gentlelady from Texas is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Friday, we found out that ICE, per a memo sent by the
The
acting...
gentlelady like the amendment.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Chairman. Yes. I'd like to dispense with the reading of the amendment, please.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Friday, we found out that ICE, per a memo sent by the acting director, would be discontinuing a policy that requires the agency to report the deaths of recently released detainees if they die within 30 days of being released from custody. I want to share with you all something that you might have heard already from our colleague Angie Craig, but she had a constituent who was arrested and flown to El Paso, to Camp East, Montana on Fort Bliss. Her constituent had a massive ovarian cyst, and she was going to get surgery to have the cyst removed before she was detained and flown to El Paso by ICE. They didn't deport her, they just held her for 4 months. Representative Craig was asking for humanitarian parole. Her senator asked for humanitarian parole. And I'm sorry, it is so hard to focus. I mean, this is... ICE is now allowed to release people who likely have been harmed by ICE detaining people for a significant period of time without release, and they don't want to be held accountable for it. Let's not let them. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amadei, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition, requiring the reinstatement of a policy from the Biden administration at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic that mandated ICE track whether a detainee dies for up to 30 days after being released from custody. I want to make it clear, efforts to enhance prevention of deaths in custody are a good thing. Efforts for increased transparency and oversight of any death in custody are a good thing. There is language throughout the base bill and the report exemplifying that position. However, while this policy might have been suitable during the COVID public health emergency, I agree with ICE's position to rescind this requirement now that the COVID emergency declaration has been lifted and has been for quite some time. To be honest, I think it's appropriate. Why? Because no other agency across the federal government that provides similar detention services, such as the Marshals, the Bureau of Prisons, has ever had such a policy. Not before COVID, not during COVID, and certainly not after COVID. I am not supportive of burdening only one agency with an arduous requirement just because that agency's letters are ICE. I'll end on this. It is absolutely the responsibility of ICE to provide appropriate health care to all detainees and to track and report any fatal incidents while an alien is in custody. The language already included throughout our report affirms this position. I urge your no vote and yield back.
Mr. Cuellar is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rise in support of the gentlelady's amendment. This is a simple transparency requirement. If an individual dies within 30 days of being released from ICE custody, ICE should continue reporting that death. I support immigration enforcement. I support the men and women of ICE who are trying to carry out a very difficult work every day. But support for law enforcement and support for accountability also goes hand in hand. When somebody has recently been in a federal custody, Congress has a responsibility to understand whether that person received appropriate medical care, whether detention standards were followed, or whether any policy changes need to be done. Ending this reporting requirement will reduce transparency at an exact moment when the department should be giving this committee more information and not less. This amendment doesn't interfere with ICE operations. It does not interfere with ICE operations. It simply ensures that Congress has the information needed to conduct oversight. I encourage my colleagues to support this amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, gentlemen. The gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized to address the amendment.
There are people that were taken into custody by ICE, some at the Federal Whipple Building, others in detention centers. But I'll speak to the one where ICE finally decided that they had to bring a gentleman into HCMC, Hennepin County Medical Center. And when they did the intake, the nurses and the doctor staff and everybody, they're looking at him and like, what happened? Oh, he walked into a wall. 8 fractures in his head. These are people who deal with these kinds of medical trauma and emergencies all the time. And I mentioned it briefly earlier when I was talking about another amendment. The nurses, the doctors, under Minnesota state law, if a law enforcement, one of our local law enforcement officers, they would be obligated to report it. Instead, they were harassed, they were intimidated, and some of them felt threatened, just trying to do their jobs. 8 skull fractures. I had a constituent. She was detained, U.S. citizen. Took me a couple of days to find her. Skull fracture. Skull fractures are a real thing that were happening to a lot of people. You saw the picture that Mr. Hoyer had, a woman who was trying to get to her doctor's appointment, who turned the wrong corner at the wrong time, who was disabled. seatbelt on, broke the window, pulled her out of her car, and dragged her. I think we have an obligation to those people that this has happened to, whether it's a death or an injury, to our fellow citizens. At a minimum, I think it should be to every human being, but to a fellow citizen at a minimum. That this be reported, that this stop. And this is why some of us have continued not to support any more funding for ICE, not because I don't think that they don't have a crucial job to do, they do. But it's been maligned and taken out of control by an administration that didn't do oversight. There are people in my constituency, in my state, people who call my office who have been physically harmed. So to track somebody that's been in a hospital for severe head injury, to see how the outcome goes in 30 days, I don't think that's outrageous. We talk about being pro-life in here.
Yeah.
Do unto others as you would have done unto you. And that's the rule I'm going to live by. And I thank the gentlewoman for bringing the amendment. And by the way, docs didn't want to release them. I said, no, it's time to go. They took them out. No idea what's happened. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentlelady from Ohio is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't intending to speak on this, but I just have to say, there are members of this committee that are listening to you and not watching the basketball. We are talking about life and death and ways to solve serious issues that happen to be on the border. I am just so proud to serve with you, Congresswoman Escobar and Congresswoman McCollum. What you have been through, probably most of us haven't been through in our districts. I'm really proud of you. And I just appreciate the fact that you support the humane treatment of human beings. And you're trying to find the best way forward. And I would just say to some of the others in the shirts, the red shirts, I'm not against red shirts. I'm Polish American, we're red and white. So, but there's some kind of oddity happening here where that's being watched, and we're talking about life and death. And I'm glad you had the presence to hold your message high. And I obviously will be supporting you, but I'm just proud of you in particular this evening. Thank you. And I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. Gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized to address the amendment.
Again, a question to the gentlelady. Did the woman succumb as a? Okay.
The answer is I don't know.
Okay. Let me.
And we don't know what her medical status is, and now we will never know because of this memo.
I would just say, I have some knowledge and information about ovarian cancer. I went in to see the doctor, I think it was on a Monday. And he said to Stan and myself, to my husband and I, he says, I believe it's ovarian cancer. He says, but I can't be for sure. He said, nevertheless, this was on Monday. He says, you need to be in the hospital on Thursday. You need to be in the hospital on Thursday, 3 days after diagnosis. And I had ovarian cancer. To wait 4 months is a death sentence. Now, one can challenge whether or not an individual can be picked up or not picked up, but we have to have some semblance of humanity. If someone is ill, you have to provide a medical treatment. Get the medical treatment, and you may incarcerate them again. That is If we don't follow those kinds of rules, we have lost our humanity. That can't continue. You know, with unaccompanied kids, which I spent a lot of time on in HHS, we have standards. They're called the Flores standards, which says, and it outlines how people have to be treated, what kind of circumstances, what kind of environment that they need to be in, what kind of medical procedures that need to occur, what needs to happen if someone needs to get treated. They're taken to from the facility to the local doctors. There's contracts with the doctors so that we don't have kids dying in these centers. I don't know, I'll be honest with you. And I've asked the staff whether Flores is translatable to these other, or if there is a set of standards, humane standards that have to be followed if people are going to be detained. And that's where I think we should go. And I just say this to the gentlelady. Let us work together on making sure that, yeah, I'm with you on the 30 days, but I don't want people to die in 30 days in what's happened. I want to make sure that if they are ill and in those centers, that they get the treatment that they need while they're in U.S. custody. That is a value. That is a mark of a civilized society. Otherwise, we certainly have devolved into utter chaos and inhumanity. I yield back my time.
Thank you, gentlelady. Are there others wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I shared with you all earlier about the GAO report about this facility, Camp East, Montana. The GAO report documents how appropriate medical care has been withheld from detainees. And this is why I gave you the example of our colleague, Angie Craig, and her constituent, who was held for 4 months, even though her lawyers repeatedly told ICE she needs this surgery. She was scheduled to get the surgery the week she was detained. And for 4 months, not only was she denied that surgery while she was held in custody, she was given aspirin for her pain. And now ICE wants to make sure we don't learn about deaths that happened within the 30 days of release. That's not acceptable. And I'll say one last thing to Mr. Amadei. Chairman, you gave I think, a totally appropriate speech at the beginning where you said, "Don't guess my motivations." Please don't guess mine.
Questions now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Texas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Okay. Being the chair, the noes have it, and the amendment is not adopted. Gentlelady from Texas, Ms. Escobar, is recognized for an amendment.
Mr. Chair, I have an amendment at the desk and ask that the reading of it be dispensed with.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This next amendment is pretty simple. It would fund DHS's Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties at a level of $50 million from the current funding level in the bill of $5.1 million. DHS's Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties provides critical oversight services for DHS and its agencies by investigating complaints about constitutional rights, including privacy or excessive use of force, reviewing deaths in ICE custody and CBP-involved death, and making recommendations and influencing policies to ensure heightened transparency and responsiveness. This administration has slowly been whittling away at this funding in order to do away with this office. I ask for your support to fund it at levels that it has been funded before. Lord knows, we need the oversight more than ever. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amadei, is recognized to respond to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise in opposition to Ms. Escobar's amendment. The Office of Civil Rights and Civil Liberties has limited responsibility in statute. During the previous administration, CRCL became a bloated office that did far more than the law authorized. The present administration rightly reduced the scope of this office back to its intended functions. This committee continues to right-size CRCL to match statutory requirements. While I appreciate a focus on oversight, this amendment also has no offset for the increase. I ask my colleagues to vote no.
Thank you, gentlemen. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support this amendment, and I ask you to please consider voting in favor of putting the funding back. Thank you. Yield back.
Thank the gentleman. Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute to close.
I ask you to vote yes, to vote in favor of proper oversight. Yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Texas. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Opinion of the chair, the no has it, and the amendment is not agreed to. Gentlelady from Texas is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk, and I ask that we dispense with the reading.
Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentlelady is recognized for remarks on her amendment.
So you see on our amendment list that some of my amendments were late, and in part, it was because we received this GAO report yesterday, which gave me the evidence. You all have been hearing me talk about, really for some time now, talk about what was happening inside of Camp East, Montana, which is at Fort Bliss on our premier military installation. But I finally had the evidence. So this is why I included some added amendments to today's markup. This amendment is about a report on the homicide that I told you all about in a prior discussion about a previous amendment. There have been multiple deaths, as I've shared with all of you, inside of Camp East, Montana. In fact, the number of deaths of people in ICE custody is at a historic and unconscionable high. One of the dead individuals, one of the detainees who died in custody, was sent to the El Paso County Medical Examiner, who ruled that death a homicide. I read the autopsy. It's pretty shocking. It was clear from the autopsy that someone had been murdered. So I asked DHS multiple times, what's the status? Surely we're not going to let this go unaccounted for. Didn't hear back from Mr. Lyons for a long time. Finally, I got an answer from Mr. Lyons just before he left the agency. And he said, we've referred it to DOJ. Well, what we learned in this GAO report that we got yesterday was that evidence was disposed of. So it's a crime on top of a crime. What I am asking for is that we direct ICE OPR to submit a report to this committee within 30 days of the conclusion of the ongoing criminal investigation and ensure the report details the findings of the investigation and the status of OPR's investigation in light of the findings. I think we deserve to know what happened. I don't think that's too much to ask. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amade, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in support of the amendment. I yield back.
Would the gentleman, okay. Gentlelady has the right to close if she chooses to. Okay, questions now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Texas. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. Gentlelady from Texas is recognized for the purpose of an amendment.
I have an amendment at the desk, and actually, I would like the amendment read into the
Clerk will
record,
read the
please.
amendment.
An amendment offered by Ms. Escobar in the report, payment for meals not needed. The committee is aware of the GAO report issued on June 9, 2026, titled Immigration Detention, Waste, and Performance Issues at Camp East, Montana Provide Valuable Lessons for Future Facilities. In the report, GAO found that both the U.S. Army and ICE paid for meal services at Camp East that it did not need. The U.S. Army paid $11.5 million for meals it did not need between August 1, 2025 and August 15, 2025, and an additional $423,000 for meals it didn't need between August 16, 2025 and September 30, 2025. ICE paid $7.1 million for meals it didn't need between October 1st, 2025 and March 12, 2026. The committee directs ICE to recoup the payments made to the contractor for meal services during such time periods.
Gentlelady from Texas is recognized to explain her amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, the evidence of what I have been saying for months is in this GAO report. Of the tens of millions of dollars of waste, American taxpayer dollars, money that went into a private contractor's pocket for food during a time when there were 0 detainees at Camp East, Montana. 3 meals a day for weeks, 0 detainees, but the private contractor got their money. I think we should go after that money. And I will tell you, it's the GAO report, as damning and explosive as it is the tip of the iceberg. In addition to meals that the federal government, that the American taxpayer has paid for that weren't necessary because there were no detainees, we are also paying for janitorial services at that facility. And guess what? The detainees clean their own pods. We are also paying for laundry services at that facility. And I have gone to that facility multiple times and have seen with my own eyes that the detainees wash their own clothes in the sink. They get, I wish I had a sugar packet. Let's pretend this is a sugar packet. But the men and women there get soap about the size of this packet daily to shower. And for women, I mean, ladies, that's shampoo and body wash. But because the laundry services are not happening, they would rather use the packet of their shampoo to launder their own clothes. And we're paying for that. The American taxpayer is paying for that. Let's go after the money that contractor pocketed for the food. I'm going to urge the GAO to look into what's happening with laundry and cleaning. This is fraud. I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amade, is recognized to address the amendment.
I rise to support the amendment. I yield back. You're welcome.
I yield back.
I appreciate that. Gentlelady has the right to close now, and so questions now on the amendment offered by the gentlelady from Texas. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, and the amendment is adopted. The gentleman from California, Mr. Levin, who's appropriately attired, patriotic. Thank you for your efforts on the.
Thank you,
it was
Mr.
a
Chairman. If
very
you'll
nice-
indulge me, I just want to congratulate my Republican friends on their victory tonight. We did have a record $3 million raised for charity. Over 30,000 people attended the game, and no one got hurt. That's the best thing of all. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well,
Yes.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk,
Okay.
and I ask for unanimous consent that the reading of this amendment be dispensed
Without
with.
objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentleman's recognized for remarks about it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In 2024, TSA reached a collective bargaining agreement, or CBA, with AFG, the American Federation of Government Employees, which represents about 47,000 transportation security officers, or TSOs. These are the men and women that we see at the airport who help us every week as we're getting to and from our districts. That collective bargaining agreement was a significant win, and it included a major expansion of benefits for workers, and the agreement itself was set at 7 years. But then last year, former Secretary Noem tried to terminate that agreement between TSA and their employees. In January, a federal judge ruled that that violated a standing court injunction, and despite this, the case is still on appeal. There's one sentiment I share with the former secretary. The TSOs that we all see every week, they provide a, quote, primary function of national security. During the partial shutdown, TSOs, as I know that you are all aware of, they had to show up to work without pay, without guarantees of when it would all end. All were ensuring the utmost safety and security for thousands of travelers every day, including all of us. I met recently with the TSOs in my district who shared that some of their coworkers, and I quote, had to ask friends and family for loans and held yard sales and bake sales. TSOs are not paid under the general schedule pay system, and they are excluded from benefits under Title V personnel system. And they're paid less on average than federal workers performing similar roles under Title V. TSA's roughly 65,000 person workforce does not receive the compensation or baseline protections and worker rights that are available to federal employees elsewhere in the federal government. And you probably know TSA is facing major issues with retention that have only been exacerbated by recent months. We should be honoring their service to keeping our communities safe, not taking away their benefits and taking away their right to organize. Now, a few months ago, you might remember that we passed something called the Protect America's Workforce Act with significant bipartisan support, and I checked, there were at least a few of my Republican friends in the room that voted for that bill. And that bill would nullify the March 2025 order, which ended collective bargaining rights for federal employees represented by unions at 18 other federal agencies and prevent the administration from canceling existing union contracts. The TSOs, the transportation folks that we're talking about, they were not included in that bill or in that executive order. But several of you in this room voted for that bill, presumably because you agree that federal employees should have the right to organize. They deserve the right to negotiate a livable wage, to fight for access to affordable child care, to get better sick and medical leave. So I ask those of you specifically, and you know who you are, who supported that bill, and really anyone in this room who supports basic collective bargaining rights, to do the same here. My amendment would ensure that the Secretary uses no funds to terminate or revoke the collective bargaining agreement governing TSOs. So let's pass this. Let's provide just a sliver of certainty and reliability for our transportation security officers. And I'll just say one thing. I've heard often that we don't want to tie the hands of the administration. With respect, that's Article 1. The power of the purse belongs to this committee, and every appropriations bill we write ties the hands of the administration in one way or another. That's the whole point of the document. The only question is whether we tie those hands in the right way. And I would say, friends, that collective bargaining rights for those that serve us at those airports every single week, that's a right and reasonable thing to do. So I urge support for the amendment, and I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amade, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise in opposition to the amendment at the desk. Real simple. All that said, TSA's collective bargaining agreement remains in place because of a court injunction. Now, that's being appealed, but I think we ought to go ahead and see what the court says our work already means before we start getting into something else. I urge your no vote. Yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support this amendment. Collective bargaining rights and national security are not incompatible. I can tell you that, I've seen a lot of the hardworking Border Patrol agents, and they have their own unions, and they should be. And again, that's Border Patrol. I support their unions, and now we're talking about it should be the same thing for the transportation security officers or airport security screeners. And again, they work hard also during the shutdown. They worked, they protected the traveling public, and they did it without a paycheck. So, it's important that we support this amendment because collective bargaining is important to those workers. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Connecticut, Mr. Law, is recognized to address the amendment.
I rise in support of this amendment, which would support TSA workers who recently endured the longest government shutdown in history earlier this year. Make no mistake, these are workers who Republicans tried to use as a bargaining chip. Republicans invoked their work and the long lines at airport security as leverage to try to force through a Homeland Security bill without critical reforms they knew the American people wanted. And all the while, ICE agents were receiving their full paychecks, I'm glad that Republicans eventually came to their senses and passed my legislation after 79 days that paid TSA workers, along with FEMA, Coast Guard, cybersecurity. But many of these workers still struggling to get out of the financial hole that they were put in by that unnecessary shutdown, still paying off the debt they were forced to put on their credit cards, or catching up on mortgage and rent payments that were missed. This bill should be a chance to show these workers how much we actually value them, especially when Republicans made them the poster child for a government shutdown that they started. Imagine my surprise then to find out that this bill cuts funding for the TSA by nearly $350 million. It is clear that TSA workers have never been a priority of this administration. I can recall being at Bradley Airport in Connecticut last year when two TSA officers found out, they came up to me and that they had found out that they had been let go during the initial rounds of firings led by DOGE and the Trump administration. One of them told me they began working for TSA immediately after its creation in the wake of 9/11. I remember it vividly because he said, Rosie, he says, I wanted to give back in some way. This is where I thought I could really exercise my patriotic duty. And then he informed me not only was he let go, they were let go, but the administration abrogated their collective bargaining rights. This administration's hostility towards organized labor is also clear. They have suspended project labor agreements across the government. They've rolled back protections for workers, undermined key worker protection agencies, including cutting the funding for the National Labor Relations Board. Federal courts have twice said that TSA's attempts to walk away from its collective bargaining agreement with our TSA workers was illegal. But we know the attacks on these workers' rights will continue. This amendment would at least ensure that TSA employees do not have their collective bargaining rights that other government workers enjoy, stripped away. This is a bare minimum of what we should be able to do for people who showed up for work day after day with no paycheck to keep the rest of us safe. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, to support these workers, and I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady. Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Chairman, I mentioned that we recently passed something, the Protect America's Workforce Act, and a number of you voted for it. The exact same logic applies to this instance. So to my dear friend from Nevada, who mentions that this is all being decided by the courts and therefore we should just step aside and wait for the courts to tell us what to do. That's also the case for that March order for those other 18 government entities. It's a very analogous situation where you have an executive order, it's being litigated, and we have an opportunity in Congress to weigh in, to take a stand. And I think, well, the case is on appeal is an opportunity for all of us to take a stand, just as we did with that vote. A no vote on this amendment, my friends, means you will not stand up to taking away the benefits that all of our transportation safety officers desperately need. I hope you will consider supporting this amendment, and I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentleman from California. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Roll call's been requested. Sufficient support is present. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amade. Mr. Amade, no. Mrs. Bice. Mrs. Bice, no. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case. Mr. Case, aye. Mr. Siscomani. Mr. Siscomani, no. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud, no. Mr. Clyburn. Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, no. Mr. Cole.
No.
Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, aye. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean, aye. Ms. DeLauro. Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, no. Mr. Elzey. Mr. Elzey, no. Ms. Escobar. Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, aye. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, no. Ms. Frankel. Ms. Frankel, aye. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, no. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Hinson. Mrs. Hinson, no. Mr. Hoyer. Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy. Mr. Ivy, aye. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Capter. Ms. Capter, aye. Mr. Lalota. Mr. Lalota, aye. Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, aye. Ms. Letlow. Mr. Levin. Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy. Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCullum. Ms. McCullum, aye. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, no. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse. Mr. Newhouse, no. Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Pingree. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Reschenthaler. Mr. Reschenthaler, no. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Shreve. Mr. Shreve, no. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong, no. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, aye. Miss Underwood. Miss Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo. Mr. Valadeo, no. Miss Wasserman Schultz. Miss Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mrs. Watson Coleman. Mrs. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Zinke. Mr. Zinke, no.
Are there any other members wishing to vote or to change their vote? Seeing none, the clerk will tally. On this vote, the ayes are 28, the noes are 33. The amendment is not adopted. Gentleman from New York, Mr. Espaillat, is recognized for the purpose of an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I rise to resubmit my amendment, which would ensure that the money in this bill does not go towards the detainment or deportation of those who have active dreamer status. Following our discussion
Ask
this
the gentleman what the amendment.
yes, please dispense the reading of it.
Okay. Without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentleman's recognized for remarks on his amendment.
It's following our discussion this afternoon, we added new language to this measure, which more explicitly states that those who are convicted of a crime and lose their status are not subject to this amendment. This language is obviously consistent with my proposal from earlier today and the underlying existing regulation on DACA. I appreciate your willingness to work with us, Mr. Chairman, and I hope my colleagues in the majorities can support this amendment. And I yield back.
Gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amadeus, recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to my colleague from New York, I appreciate your willingness to take another look at it and try to work on it more. Unfortunately, I still oppose the amendment. When I said earlier I'm sympathetic to the status of DACA recipients and those awaiting renewal of their status, the proposed amendment, including the updated version, goes too far and are not fully lined out. You say, well, that's easy to say. That's just a conclusion. No, all of us have been around. There's been a ton of talk about DACA, and there's work that should be done on DACA. But at this point in time, and it's not about people in this room, it's generally, it's like anything we do with DACA is going to be uber microscoped fine. But we need to basically use that experience that we've had so when we do something like this proposal, that it doesn't create more uncertainty, not only for the DACA people, but for those folks who, quite frankly, are tasked with enforcing that. So, unfortunately, I think it's still too ambiguous. That's not the end of it. I want to still keep working, but, I mean, you're entitled to an answer. And so at this time, I oppose the amendment, and I yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you. I rise to support this amendment that has been redrafted again. Look, I should be focusing on the worst of the worst, and that's what we were looking at, the worst of the worst. DACA students are folks that have an education, they are working, they're nurses, they're part of our military, and they don't have a criminal record. I mean, those are the type of individuals that we want to have here. So for ICE to go out there and meet their quotas by focusing on DACA, it does the opposite, Mr. Chairman. It actually brings more uncertainty to these families. So again, I don't think it was necessary to have this language because the law is clear, and I think you did put it here. That is subpart C of Part 236 of Title 8 Code of Federal Regulation. It's already there. But you move forward, and I appreciate that. And again, I still think that DACA students should not be focused, and I should be focusing on the worst of the worst, like it's been said over and over and over on TV, and I support this amendment. Thank you for moving forward on putting this language forward.
Thank the gentleman. The gentlelady from Florida, Ms. Wasserman Schultz, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to belabor this, but usually when we go through the process that Mr. Espaillat was asked to go through, and a concern was raised by the chairman of the subcommittee that clarity was needed that we don't have when a crime is committed by an individual who has DACA, that DACA is revoked. That's in the underlying law, but we postponed consideration of this amendment in order to make absolutely clear that that was the intent of the sponsor of the amendment. And generally when we do that, and that is addressed, we come back, and the implication is that when that concern is addressed, that the amendment would earn the majority's support, or at least the chairman's support. So I'm unclear what it is that is still the problem and what is still vague. Wasn't the purpose of going back and asking Mr. Espeon to add the clarity so that you could get to a place where you could support the amendment? So what happened? Yes, the question is addressed to the chairman.
Thanks. What happened is we didn't get enough clarity. It was a swing and a miss. That doesn't make anybody a bad guy, but DACA is not a foregone conclusion that is an easy area. So I did not represent in this room that whatever was submitted was not going to be evaluated like the original thing. And so, with all humility, it's like, I still don't think we're in a place where, frankly, you're going to get support from everybody in the room for something that we're trying to get to consensus on. We didn't get to consensus. Thank you, and I yield back.
Well, I am very frustrated on behalf of the gentleman and on behalf of DACA recipients who, quite honestly, from this administration and from Republicans, constantly live with behind the eight ball and with the with the goalpost being moved every time there's an issue that arises. And just as they are about to be able to have more certainty, Republicans move the ball again, move the goalpost, change the rules, add a but or an and or an or. DACA recipients deserve certainty. They are a vital part of our economy and our country, and it is unfair what Republicans do to people who have made America better, like DACA recipients have. And I yield back.
Thank you, gentlelady. The gentleman from Maryland, Mr. Hoyer, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I share the views of the lady from Florida. As I recall what happened, the gentleman offers his amendment. The subcommittee chair rose and indicated that DACA students or DACA authorized may or may not have committed a crime. I rose, as I recall, and said that if they had, they would have lost DACA status. I'm not sure the gentleman went to, very frankly, Ms. Schultz, I went to Mr. Espeon and said, look, let us clarify that if somebody had committed a crime, which I think they would automatically lose DACA status, but irrespective of that, that they would not be eligible for this amendment's protection. Mr. McCarthy and I and a couple of other leaders met with President Trump in his first term. Mr. Kelly was his chief of staff. I sat next to the president on one side, and Mr. McCarthy sat next to him on the other side, and we talked about this subject of DACA. At the end of the meeting, the president turned to me and said, Steny, I was the majority leader at the point, if you pass a DACA bill, I will sign it. We went back and we had negotiations, and unfortunately, we could not get agreement on a bill. So we never did send the president a bill. But he had indicated if we had, he would have signed it. Now, I have not talked to him about it since that time. That was some period of time ago, so obviously I'm not representing that's his position today. But as the gentlelady referenced, as Mr. Aguilar has referenced on numerous occasions, a lot of us have met with these DACA young people who came here as children, not of their own free will. They came with their parents. Their parents did not come in an authorized status. Therefore, the child did not either. But the child, whatever age they were, they went to elementary schools, they went to high schools, many of them went to college, many of them are professionals, they're nurses, teachers, lawyers. I've met probably with hundreds of DACA. And it is very disappointing when I think I was of the opinion that the problem was we wanted to make sure that they were not people who were, in fact, out of status, whether we knew whether they automatically lost DACA status. So the gentleman, I got out of the circle then, and I'm sorry that there wasn't discussion. I frankly thought when he offered this amendment, I said, well, that's fine. I thought you had seen it and agreed to it because it clarified and made certain that a DACA recipient who had broken the law, been convicted of breaking the law, certainly would not be eligible for protection under this amendment. So I share the gentlelady's disappointment. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to respect one another in this committee. There are a lot of you on your side of the aisle I really like. But I don't get the sense that we respect one another in this context. We're all voting aye, you're voting no, or if you're voting yes, we're voting no. I appreciate the fact that you took the gentlelady from Texas's last two amendments. I think that made sense, rational, and I think it added some respect to the process. But very frankly, if just you're going to troop in for your meeting with a directive from someplace, we're all voting no, we're wasting our time. I humorously said, there are three people up here spend a lot of time counting us, checking it off. And all three count, and then they check to make sure they have the same figure. I told them they ought to just print up 3427 slips. Because that's what's happening. And this is an example where we should have been able to work together unless you're against DACA having any protection. Notwithstanding the fact they don't know, for the most part, any other country other than the United States. And they stand up and they put their hand over their heart and say, I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. One nation, under God, indivisible. Ladies and gentlemen of this committee, I think this is a sad state we're in. I can't believe, for instance, and I was going to say this, I didn't debate it, that the gentlelady's presentation of the tragic occurrence, and we don't know how many times it's happened, and with the suspicion that ICE is under, and nobody can deny that's not the case, that we did not, there's not one of you that sought in your heart to say yes, knowing within 30 days of release whether somebody passed away, ought to be in our knowledge bank. Because if that happens once, twice, 3 times, we ought to make sure that if we take people into our custody, we take care of them. I don't know that we're going to resolve it because I don't think anybody's going to change their mind, but it's a sad state.
Thank you, gentlemen. The gentleman from California, Mr. Levin, is recognized to address the amendment.
We will yield to my friend, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Espiat.
Thank you. Again, the specifics of the adjustment of this amendment, I believe, is very clear. In fact, if I read from it, it says the following: with respect to any individual who has been convicted of a felony, a significant misdemeanor, or 3 or more misdemeanors not occurring on the same date and not arising out of the same act, omission or scheme of misconduct, or who otherwise poses a threat to national security or public safety, consistent with Section 236.22 of such title. So it even goes as far as to say that if someone poses a threat to public safety, as considered by the secretary, they could be also eligible not to be granted this the benefits of this amendment. So I think this is very clear. In fact, it goes further than I expected that it would go in stipulating which offenses fall under those parameters. And so I disagree with the interpretation that there is confusion or that we don't understand which offenses fall under this particular amendment, when in fact, it's stipulated in this in very specific ways. I concur with the gentleman from Maryland that it is tragic that these young people who feel to be Americans and who play by the rules and who have been here, and in many cases don't even speak the language of the nation they were born in, and have no connection whatsoever with folks back where they were born. No family members, no friends. They don't speak the language, that maybe many of them haven't even gone back to those countries, and yet we don't find it in our hearts to regularize them. I again want to appeal to you to consider this amendment, and I yield back.
I thank the gentleman. The gentleman from California, Mr. Aguilar, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All respect, congratulations to the other team. Obviously, apologize for the decorum. I was not planning to speak. I think we have policy and process concerns with how this was handled. I know some of you support fixing DACA. I know some of you have voted to support added protections for individuals with DACA status. I've run some of those amendments. I've had a number of conversations with you privately. I would say 5 of you are adjacent to being supportive of it, have supported this in some way. I think maybe another 8 of you are what I would say DACA curious. And you have had conversations with me privately, and we've had discussions about how we've done this. No need to show hands, Mr. Zinke. I didn't ask for a raise of hands. This isn't interactive here. So I believe that there are many of you who want to find solutions to this. This amendment, from the language perspective, is pretty simple. We have seen time and time again, this administration look for any way they can to instill fear in the community. And one of the ways they do that is by doing this. They will grab and scoop up a couple individuals with DACA status. Some of them might have been arrested on something. Some may have been convicted of something, but it doesn't matter to them. And I apologize, I'm on a lot of ibuprofen right now, but the process, the process, that's the policy. And I think I believe genuinely you want to find a solution to this. On the process side, Mr. Chairman, it doesn't make sense to me. In good spirits, with the best of intentions, Mr. Espaillat crafted an amendment that says, please stop scooping up individuals' DACA status. You have an opportunity to not renew them if there's something going on in their past. That is generally how this would be handled, but individuals' DACA status have been scooped up. There is no dispute with that. And so he clarified, and he went a little further. Maybe then he didn't ask my advice. He went a little further than I might have gone with this language. And by the way, from a word count language, I just added it up. His amendment was 44 words. He added clarifying language of 120 words, 3 times the language, just to clarify that this does not in any way inhibit the ability of DHS to do their job if someone has been found guilty, if someone's been convicted of something, in addition to the normal renewal process, which is generally where this you would see this come up. So the policy, I understand, and I think that many of you are sympathetic, but on the process piece, I hope you understand how frustrating that is for us. Because, you know, my understanding is that this could be worked out, and this is pretty strong language. And it's just frustrating, because I do think this is an issue, as Mr. Hoyer said, and as the gentlewoman from Florida said, this is an issue that deserves to be fixed. And I know that you guys believe that. And this is one small way, not to fix the system, but to ensure that there's just a little bit more comfort. So maybe somebody doesn't have to look around the corner. Maybe they can go and they can take their kid to school, or they can, you know, just feel a little bit better as they go about their daily lives. And this is frustrating. And so I think the policy piece and I think the process piece are the concerns of folks on our side. I appreciate the time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Mr. Chairman, again, process and the content of the amendment frustrating. I feel very strongly that we clarified any ambiguousness in the original amendment. We went pretty far, looked into the actual DACA regulations to ensure that we were consistent with them. And I find that this correction of the amendment makes it consistent. So I hope that you find it all within your hearts to support the amendment, and I yield back.
Thank the gentleman. The question is now on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New York. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. No. Being the chair, the noes have it. A roll call has been requested and sufficient support has been demonstrated. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, no. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, no. Mr. Amadei. Mr. Amadei, no. Mrs. Bice. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, no. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, no. Mr. Case. Mr. Case, aye. Mr. Siscomani. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, no. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud, no. Mr. Clyburn. Mr. Clyburn, aye. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, no. Mr. Cole.
No.
Mr. Cole, no. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, aye. Ms. Dean. Ms. Dean, aye. Ms. DeLauro. Ms. DeLauro, aye. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, no. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, no. Mr. Elzey. Mr. Elzey, no. Ms. Escobar. Ms. Escobar, aye. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, aye. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, no. Ms. Frankel. Ms. Frankel, aye. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, no. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, no. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, aye. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, no. Mrs. Hinson. Mrs. Hinson, no. Mr. Hoyer. Mr. Hoyer, aye. Mr. Ivy. Mr. Ivy, aye. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, no. Ms. Captor. Ms. Captor, aye. Mr. LaLota. Ms. Lee. Ms. Lee, aye. Ms. Letlow. Mr. Levin. Mr. Levin, aye. Ms. Malloy. Ms. Malloy, no. Ms. McCullum. Ms. McCullum, aye. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, aye. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, no. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, no. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, aye. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan, aye. Mr. Newhouse. Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez, aye. Ms. Pingree. Ms. Pingree, aye. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, aye. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Reschenthaler. Mr. Reschenthaler, no. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, no. Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, no. Mr. Shreve. Mr. Shreve, no. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, no. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong, no. Ms. Torres. Mrs. Torres, aye. Ms. Underwood? Ms. Underwood, aye. Mr. Valadeo? Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Ms. Wasserman Schultz, aye. Mrs. Watson Coleman? Mrs. Watson Coleman, aye. Mr. Womack? Mr. Womack, no. Mr. Zinke? Mr. Zinke, no.
Are there any members wishing to vote or change their vote? Gentlelady from Oklahoma? Did you get that?
Mrs. Bice, no.
Okay, are there any others? Gentleman from Washington? Okay. Are there any others? Seeing none, the clerk will tally.
Twenty-eight, 30.
On this vote, the ayes are 28, the noes are 30, and the amendment is not adopted. Gentleman from New York, Mr. Morelli is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment at the desk. I'd ask to dispense with the reading.
Clerk will read the amendment.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, did you ask to read it or not?
I was asked to dispense with the reading.
Oh,
of
I'm
the-
sorry, I misheard. So let me just quickly, without objection, the reading of the amendment is dispensed with, and the gentleman's recognized for remarks in his amendment.
Great, thank you, sir. Earlier today, I talked about, and I'll be relatively brief given the hour, that we have a federal building downtown Rochester, right on the main drag near City Hall, heavily traveled. It has courthouse in it, federal courthouse, both civil and criminal, a bankruptcy court, it has a number of government agencies, including congressional offices and Senate offices, and a daycare, which is used by not only the employees in the building, but people in the community. And recently was made public that Border Patrol is going to put a detention facility, number of cells, no comment, no communication with members of Congress, no public input, no comment for the public, no consultation with local governments. Highly inappropriate. I had asked earlier for amendment, which apparently I withdrew, and hoped that we would be able to reach some accommodation to suggest that this is inappropriate, particularly at a time when the public in my community, I suspect the public in many places around this country, have lost complete faith or trust that ICE is doing what the president indicated that he would do to go after criminals, murderers and rapists, he always said, the worst of the worst. I think I recounted going out to a detention facility in Batavia, New York, not far from where I live, to tour the facility and meet with a gentleman by the name of Omar Ramos Jimenez, who has been detained now for 6 months, has a work permit, has been in the United States for 30 years, has raised his family here, 2 children born in the United States who are citizens. This gentle, sweet man who wants to go home, but he doesn't mean home to Mexico, where he hasn't been for over 30 years. And he has a work permit that'll go until 2030. And this gentleman, and I went and spent time with him, asked him what I could tell his community. And as I was leaving, he said, well, one thing I can shake your hand as I'm leaving, but I can't even hug my children and my family when they come to see me. We're separated by a glass wall. All I want to do is go home and live my life. And it was heartbreaking, literally heartbreaking. So this lack of trust, people see these stories and they see what happened in Minneapolis. And I'm so sorry still to the folks who represent that community. But all over the country, they see it. This isn't the worst of the worst. These are people just trying to do as so many in our families did to come to this country, the greatest country in maybe in civilization, the shining city on the hill. They want to come and have a better life for themselves and for their children. And frankly, thought that's what the American dream was all about. I thought that was we always talk about the mosaic, you know, it's the great melting pot. Boy, how far we have come. And I think often of Ronald Reagan in his last speech to America talking about how important immigration was. I mean, that's how far, respectfully, your party has veered from that. In any case, people in my community are angry, they're frustrated, and so the amendment effectively just asks for sort of simple things you'd expect from your government, that it report to you, that it report to members of Congress, that it gives some indication that they've considered how detrimental this would be, how much of an imposition it would be, how it's not appropriate to be in the same facility, literally across the hall from a daycare center where 40, 50 young children are. If we're bringing in the worst of the worst, this is not the place for them to be adjacent to a daycare center. So I'd ask consideration of the amendment. It relates now, the original amendment was within 500 feet of a daycare center. This is just specifically for the facility in Rochester to ask that they basically follow rules that you would expect any government would do. Public comment, consultation with local governments, go through and consult with members of Congress and make them be aware of what the implications are, and to make sure that they've considered what those implications are. So I'd urge acceptance of the amendment, and I know that the chair had offered to have a conversation. I don't think we got very far with it, but I do appreciate that, and with that, I'll yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. The gentleman from Nevada, Mr. Amadei, is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank you to my colleague from Rochester for the way you pursued this. It is clear to me that this is a big deal to you in the federal courthouse in Rochester. We've done a little research, read some newspaper articles, all that other sort of thing. Entirely appropriate for you as the federal representative for something that's going on in the federal courthouse to be, it's clear you're intimately involved, you're very concerned. I appreciate that. And having done a little bit of land use back 1,000,000 years ago when I was a recovering lawyer, I sit there and I look at this and listen, you made it much more specific. I get that because, you know, it's like, hey, we don't want to tell courthouses throughout the country what we're doing or what they can or can't do in the appropriations process. One shoe doesn't fit all. And so guess what? Hats off. Okay, it's Rochester. Here's what we want. You've done a great job of saying we want to know everything from soup to nuts. Electricity, water consumption, all that other sort of thing. If you don't have those people's attention in Rochester right now, I can't imagine why not. So for your folks that you're basically fighting their fight for them, it's like they got a hell of an advocate from what I can see in a land use thing. My problem is this, and by the way, and I shouldn't do this, because I offered to get involved in some other stuff now, and it's like, well, how dare you mention this and that, but I won't go down that rabbit hole either. We'll be happy to yank the customs guy in for a meeting with you specifically in the offices here. We will support you in that discussion, and we will sit in on it, just so they know, hey, this guy's got a problem with it, and you guys may be saying talk to the hand, but the face isn't listening. I know that's probably a mistake on my part, but you know, I'm a slow learner. So I will say this, I oppose it, and I don't want to, because I get but you know, it's kind of an earmark, if you will. And we kind of, you know, you can't legislate in an appropriations bill, except when we do, and we do a lot. So anyhow, I'll just say it's kind of an earmark, making co-location of DHS agencies at a specific federal building significantly more challenging. And unfortunately, once we set the precedent to tell whoever the heck in you name the city that you're going to come in and get the approval of this committee, it's a bad statutory precedent in a general sense. And I don't say that in a judgmental way. I will be happy to join you in getting their attention without legislation. And if you're interested in that, please contact me when you recover from this little drill that we're going through. and we'd be happy to help you. But I oppose the amendment, think it sets a bad precedent, and so I yield back.
Thank you, gentlemen. Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cuellar is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, again, I appreciate the gentleman. He went back, made the changes, and as I read this, it is a simple notification amendment. No fewer than 60 days before initiating such a construction, acquisition, renovation, the head of the relevant federal agency shall submit a report of the proposed facility, whatever changes they're going to do, to the Committee on Appropriations. That's it. That's it. Article 1 talks about appropriations. Article 1 talks about the oversight, the responsibility that we have. It is plain oversight. And again, I support the amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Thank you, gentlemen. Gentlelady from Pennsylvania is recognized to address the amendment.
Thank you. I rise in support of the amendment, and I thank the gentleman from Rochester for the amendment and for caring about community and for caring about these competing interests being so proximate to our children and to those who work in our community and work in these places. Respectfully, Mr. Chairman, I'm newer to this committee. I was going to say I'm new, but I'm now going to say newer to this committee. And I'm looking at this amendment, which is now in revised, marked late, and the one before, Mr. Espaillat's amendment, revised, reworked, talked about to try to make it as clear as possible. I'm newer to this committee. What specifically would have been acceptable to you or to others in the committee, but obviously you're the important one? What would have been acceptable, either in Mr. Morelli's or in Mr. Espaillat's renovation of their amendment? I am yielding. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'll be brief. It's like, I'm the one who's standing here for purposes of this thing, so people go, what's the deal? Like you just did. What would have been okay? Well, I mean, I can give you the start, but just like you guys do, it's like I go back and say, okay, what do you think about this? And if you want the brutal truth, you guys are going to be unified on your position on, for instance, this legislation. That's not news to anybody. Guess what? So does this side need to be. And so when you talk about process and procedure and look at something other than, well, let's just think about child centers and 500 feet, it's like, well, give me something better than that. One size doesn't fit all I'm concerned about. Mr. Morelli did a great job of that. And so, but then it's like, well, if you come back and give me something different, I guarantee it's going to be great and everybody's going to love it. You're going to look at it the same way if I come back to you as we're going to if you come back to us. That's the process. I yield back.
So there is no point. Is that what I'm learning? There's no point in trying to revise and work on an amendment? Because Mr. Espaillat went and got very granular. Mr. Morelli got to the building granular, not 500 feet. He got right to the building granular. So there was no way that either of these renovations, I'm talking about buildings.
Do I get any?
Oh, absolutely, sir. And
Thank you,
I'm
ma'am.
looking for the specifics.
Of course, there's a point, but frankly, when you talk about DACA, or you talk about what a federal agency is going to do in a specific courthouse, or generally in courthouses all around, there is not just, well, that's the only issue. So we try to be comprehensive. And so, yeah, we focused on that. But you look at the thing and go, well, when you look 360 degrees around, maybe it doesn't get there. So the question is, if you say, well, there's no point in doing it, well, then don't agree to do it. I mean, there have been instances where we've come to agreements and done stuff. And so I apologize for the disappointment. It was not my intent to impugn or offend, but it's like, you want to work? So it's like, well, let's take a shot at working. That doesn't mean, oh, if we're going to work, we're always going to agree. And so with respect, I yield back.
I just wonder, was there, in your conversation with your members, with the majority, was there something that could have actually earned the support. I'm looking for specifics. As I said, I'm newer here. I yield back.
Are there other members wishing to address the amendment? Seeing none, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute to close.
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to my colleagues who have spoken on the issue, and thank you to the chairman of the subcommittee. I will say that this has been frustrating, as you can imagine. I'm in a community where people are frustrated and angry. I'm always mindful of that right in the First Amendment to petition the government for a redress of your grievances, and this is what people are looking for, redress of their grievances, as it were. So started with something broader in the hopes that maybe that would be an appropriate way to address it. This obviously is much more specific, and I understand the dilemma. You know, you want to call it an earmark. I understand it's a specific, very specific issue, but I'm just trying to figure out a way to accomplish for my community what they desperately want to have accomplished. So, look, I appreciate your offer, and I'm going to take you up on it because, frankly, to get their attention, maybe get them to understand that they should reconsider this as a place that is not appropriate for it. So I appreciate that. I would ask for support of the amendment, and with it, Mr. Chair, I will yield back my time.
Thank the gentleman. The question's now on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New York. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The opinion of the chair, the noes have it, and the amendment is not adopted. Now the moment we're all waiting for, but first two things before I go to Mr. Rogers. Number one, just thank all of you. It's 2 very, very long days, and just thanks for hanging in there and letting us get done and working it through. Second, the was it lobby 1, which is G3 is open until 3. I'm glad we didn't test the limit, but so there should be an easy way out for everybody. With that, I believe we have a motion from Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Chair, I move to favorably report to the House the fiscal year 2027 Homeland Security Appropriations Bill.
Questions now on the motion to favorably report the fiscal year 2027 Homeland Security Appropriations Bill to the House. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Roll call has been requested. Sufficient support has been demonstrated. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Adderholt. Mr. Adderholt, aye. Mr. Aguilar. Mr. Aguilar, no. Mr. Alford. Mr. Alford, aye. Mr. Amade.
Yes.
Mr. Amade, aye. Mrs. Bice. Mr. Bishop. Mr. Bishop, no. Mr. Calvert. Mr. Calvert, aye. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, aye. Mr. Case. Mr. Case.
Please hold it down so people can hear their names when the clerk calls them.
Mr. Case. Mr. Case, no. Mr. Siscamani. Mr. Siscamani, aye. Mr. Klein. Mr. Klein, aye. Mr. Cloud. Mr. Cloud, aye. Mr. Clyburn. Mr. Clyburn, no. Mr. Clyde. Mr. Clyde, aye. Mr. Cole.
Aye.
Mr. Cole, aye. Mr. Cuellar. Mr. Cuellar, no. Miss Dean. Miss Dean, no. Mr. Loro. Mr. Loro, no. Mr. Diaz-Balart. Mr. Diaz-Balart, aye. Mr. Edwards. Mr. Edwards, aye. Mr. Elzey. Mr. Elzey, aye. Miss Escobar. Miss Escobar, no. Mr. Espaillat. Mr. Espaillat, no. Mr. Fleischman. Mr. Fleischman, aye. Miss Frankel. Miss Frankel, no. Mr. Franklin. Mr. Franklin, aye. Mr. Guest. Mr. Guest, aye. Mr. Harder. Mr. Harder, no. Dr. Harris. Dr. Harris, aye. Mrs. Hinson. Mrs. Hinson, aye. Mr. Hoyer. Mr. Hoyer, no. Mr. Ivy. Mr. Ivy, no. Mr. Joyce. Mr. Joyce, aye. Miss Captor. Miss Captor, no. Mr. Lalota. Mr. Lalota, aye. Miss Lee. Miss Lee, no. Miss Letlow. Mr. Levin. Mr. Levin, no. Miss Malloy. Ms. Malloy, aye. Ms. McCullum. Ms. McCullum, no. Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, no. Mr. Molinar. Mr. Molinar, aye. Mr. Moore. Mr. Moore, aye. Mr. Morelli. Mr. Morelli, no. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan. Mr. Mervan, no. Mr. Newhouse. Mr. Newhouse, aye. Ms. Perez. Ms. Perez, no. Ms. Pingree. Ms. Pingree, no. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan. Mr. Pocan, no. Mr. Quigley. Mr. Reschenthaler. Mr. Reschenthaler, aye. Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers, aye. Mr. Rutherford. Mr. Rutherford, aye. Mr. Shreve. Mr. Shreve, aye. Mr. Simpson. Mr. Simpson, aye. Mr. Strong. Mr. Strong, aye. Mrs. Torres. Mrs. Torres, no. Miss Underwood. Miss Underwood, no. Mr. Valadeo. Mr. Valadeo, aye. Miss Wasserman Schultz. Miss Wasserman Schultz, no. Mrs. Watson Coleman. Mrs. Watson Coleman, no. Mr. Womack. Mr. Womack, aye. Mr. Zinke.
Are there any members wishing,
Mr. Zinke, aye.
are there any members wishing to vote or change their vote? Gentlelady from Oklahoma.
Mrs. Bice, aye.
Are there any other members? Seeing none, the clerk will tally. You too. On this vote, the ayes are 34, the noes are 27. The motion is agreed to. I ask unanimous consent. Staff may be permitted to make technical and conforming changes to the bill and report just approved. Seeing no objection, so ordered. Without objection, so ordered. There being no further business, the committee stands adjourned.